Thank you for the kind introduction. I'm Carlo. I'm a PhD student with the Indian professors on that University of Trento in northern Italy. So today I'm talking about expected utility theory. It's something that is related to the estimation of the value of information. And expected utility theory was originally developed for its application in finance. With EUT, we can select an optimal, financially optimal action among others based on the possible consequences and the probability of the consequences to occur. For example, let's say that we want to bet in a horse race. So we have a black horse and white horse, and we want to choose one of the two. So they have two different probabilities of winning. We want to bet 25 euros. And of course, we can get two different prices. So, according to expected utility theory, we should select the horse that corresponds to the maximum expected utility. So, for the black horse, in order to calculate it, we simply multiply the money that we will get if black horse wins times the probability he wins. Then subtract the amount of money that we would lose if he loses times the probability he loses. The result is minus 9 euros and 95 cents, which is a loss of 9 euros and 95 cents. We can do the same for the white horse, and we can see that the expected utility of white horse is higher. We have a lower loss, so that would be our preferred choice. My goal was to apply that to a civil engineering bridge management problem. So with that, so I will briefly introduce the problem, then present a simplified single-stage solution, and then a multi-stage solution. In the case study, we wanted to ensure that a predefined set of overweight vehicles could be allowed to cross all the bridges within a road network managed by the autonomous province of Trento, an administration agency in my hometown. So the bridges had to be ranked based on the strength. It is a coefficient that if it is lower than 0, then we know that that bridge and that pattern of overweight vehicles comply with the design code. Instead, if the understrength is greater than 0, then the understrength represents the percentage of which the capacity of that bridge should be increased in order to comply with the design code. So since we have a little bit of flexibility when we choose whether or not to allow an overweight vehicle on a bridge, I wondered if, given a little yet positive value of understrength, we could allow the overweight vehicles on a bridge anyway. The response, so the answer is actually depends on the understrength and can be obtained using an application of EUT. So let's say that we are risk neutral, which means that the loss of any possible consequence is equal to the amount of money, the cost that we have to pay if that consequence occurs. So let's try to solve the problem with a single decision. We want to choose whether to perform structural strengthening or before allowing the overweight vehicles on the bridge, or instead authorizing the vehicles on the bridge as the bridge is. So if we perform structural strengthening, we face a single possible state of the nature, which is the one in which we pay for the strengthening, overfit strengthening, so we pay the amount of money, a cost that was estimated around the construction cost of the bridge. So the expected loss for strengthening is the construction cost, CC. Instead, if we outright the vehicles on the bridge, we face an uncertain situation in which, yes, the bridge may resist, may stay in a safe condition, leading to a cost of 0, or the bridge may fail, leading to a failure cost estimated 100 times of the conception cost. This scenario occurs with a probability of failure PF, which, according to structural reliability framework, can be obtained directly from the value of understrength alpha. So the expected loss associated to the choice of authorizing the overweight vehicles on the bridge can be calculated as the product between the loss of failure times the probability of failure. Since the probability of failure depends on the understrength, we can actually calculate a value of understrength for which the true expected losses are the same. And that is a threshold under which we know that it is most convenient to let the overweight vehicles cross the bridge as it is. And that threshold might be greater than 0. We can go forward and remove the hypothesis of risk neutrality and use instead a function proposed by Bernoulli, which represents a risk aversion. So in this case, we have a nonlinear risk aversion. It means that when the cost of a consequence approach our budget, we perceive a loss that is close to infinite and push us to avoid that situation. So I use that function in my decision problem using the balance of the bridge managing agency. Of course, that was a simplified solution because in real life we have always multi-stage decision problems, which means that we can take decisions after other decisions. And in that particular case, we had actually 4 stages. Because yes, we have a first stage in which we have a first estimate of the understrength, but we can, so the bridge manager can decide to pay a consulting company to deepen the investigation in the bridge reliability, and so they can investigate and see that, and provide an estimate of the understrength that decreases throughout the stages, which means that as we proceed, we pay money for modeling, we pay money for material sampling, but this let us acquire information that let us obtain a more precise estimate of understrength. So I modeled this decision problem with multi-stage decision tree. So at each stage, we have always the choice of letting the overweight vehicles cross the bridge as it is. And then in 3 stages out of 4, we have the choice of perform structural sampling, and so change the bridge reliability, obtain a better reliability. Of course, when we move from so in each stage, except the last one, of course, we also have the option of pay money to move to the next stage and obtain more information on the bridge reliability. So I used log normal distributions with these parameters in order to model a continuous probability density function that tells me how much I'm expecting to see the understrength to decrease throughout the stages. Multi-stage decision trees are not easy to solve. We have to solve first the last stages because we know everything about them, and then we can move backwards with the principle of what literature calls backward inductions, which means that we carry back all the information that we obtained in the last stages up to the first one. But this requires an iterative method, a Monte Carlo simulation, and that provides us the utility or the expected utility or the expected loss associated to the choice of moving from one stage to the next. I solved the problem. These are the results. The results are a set of thresholds that, in other words, are a decision rule that tells me what is the optimal action. It's basically a map in the domain of our understrength of the parameter that tells us what is the optimal choice in each stage. So I knew the value of understrength for all the bridges in the first stage because it was contained in a database. So I could perform a Monte Carlo simulation to see how many bridges were expected to end up in each branch of the decision tree. And with this, I saw that most of the bridges were expected to find a solution in the first leaves of the decision tree, and I could calculate an estimated risk of 29.2 million euros. The risk is basically the product for the loss times the probability. Interestingly, I also did the same for a set of thresholds that were used before I performed my analysis, and that resulted in an expected risk, in a risk of 72.5 million euros, which is 43.3 million euros more than before, than the results obtained with my decision. This is because these thresholds were obtained by heuristics. So if we set thresholds without performing a formal analysis, we can obtain a risk that is actually higher than that obtained with formal application of expected utility theory. Okay, so to sum up, I showed that expected utility theory, UT, can be applied to civil engineering decision problems as well to bridge management problems, and that enabled me to reduce the risk and optimize the decision, the bridge management decision problem. With that, I could define an optimal procedure, a decision rule that could be applied, that can be applied in real life. And the interesting thing that you should notice is that with this framework, I can use a risk profile, so I can take into account the personalized risk aversion of the bridge management. And this is interesting because if I'm a consulting company, I can provide a personalized solution for the bridge managers that ask me to solve decision-making problems. I appreciate your time. Thank you for your attention. Of course, I would be glad to hear any comments from the audience and to answer any questions.
Some questions?
The calibration of alpha would be based on past projects or those particular results?
Sorry?
Alpha, the probability, calibration of that is done, right? So that calibration is done based on past bridge failures or based on assessment of existing?
The probability of failure?
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a backup slide here. Okay, so the probability of failure was obtained using the beta method that is contained in the Eurocode 0. So it's not based on previous cases. There is simply an application for which if we assume with a simple hypothesis that the capacity as well as the demand can be assumed as normally distributed, or they have an equivalent Gaussian distribution. And we know that the design values of capacity and demand are percentiles of those distributions. Then we can correlate the understrength, which is calculated based on the design values, to the value of the reliability index, beta, and then from that we can obtain the probability of failure.
So the reliability would depend on those standard deviation curves of different materials, let's say.
Yes.
So each will have different value. So based on that, we need to find out the total value, standard deviation value.
No, because we also assume that the bridges were designed according to a design code And so when we use a design code, we use partial factors that correlate, that gives us what is expected to be the, they contain essential information about how is the distribution of capacity and demand, how wide is the probability normal distribution, the probability density distribution of those two features. And yes,
thanks.